Welcome to Dr. K. Vasuki channel. In this video, we are going to discuss elaborately about social work research process. What are the steps in research process? Before enter into that, we have to discuss what is social work research. In our profession, we are working with individual, group and community. People coming with multiple problem. But problem may be the same, but behind the problem, the causes is different. Without identifying the causes, we cannot deal with the individual, group or community. And we are adapting some method and we are following some theory, but it may be give you proper clarification. You should get clear clarification, and if you decided to you want to get in-depth knowledge about particular content, that time you can go for social work research. So research following scientific method, it means it has its own procedure. That means a step-by-step action. We have to follow one by one, and steps has interrelationship, and without skipping we have to follow the steps. Why we have to follow the scientific procedure? Because we are going to discover new facts, or we are going to verify the old facts which is applicable or not. So we are going to study about the relationship between the social phenomena. All those purpose we have to follow the scientific process in social work research. So what is the research process? The research process is a process of multiple scientific steps. It conducting the research work. So it has multiple scientific steps. It prescribed one. We have to follow it. We can't skip it. Each step is interlinked with other step. Because without one, we can't follow the other. So that's why we are telling it is a scientific step. It has been proved. If you follow the steps, you can provide proper result. Otherwise, you cannot say as your study is proper research. The process starts with the research problem at first, because we are observing, we are hearing, we are listening, we are studying many things, and from that, whatever things, whatever content, whatever social issues which doesn't give you clarification, that time only you are deciding to do the research. So we have to start with research problem. In social work research, it has its own steps. What are the steps behind it? First of all, as a researcher, we have to formulate a research problem. We have to collect review of literature, formulation of research objectives, devising hypothesis, making the research design, that is methodology, sampling procedure, data collection, data analysis and interpretation, hypothesis testing, deriving finding, conclusion and suggestions, and finally report writing. So these are the steps which has in research. So first step is identify and defining the research problem. Simply we can say that research problem is a topic. So selection of research problem involving selecting a broad area. We have to narrow it. As a social work researcher, we have to be very specifically, we have to shorten it. For example, if we say a study on domestic violence, which doesn't explain what is it, Are you going to study about causes of domestic violence or impact of social? The broad area of domestic violence can be split: causes of domestic violence, impact of domestic violence on family, impact of domestic violence on children, services available to victim of domestic violence, the extent of domestic violence in a society. So, the researcher may select one of the sub-area as the research topic. So, what is the purpose of narrowing the broad one into particular way as a sub-area? That's why it's gives specification. You can manage that. You can conduct your research successfully. That's why we have to form research problem. The research problem should be clearly mentioned and manageable. It should not be broad one. We have to split in sub areas, and based on our interest we have to select one among it as a research topic. The second one is review the literature. For doing everything, we have to have background knowledge. Otherwise, we get confused. It will not direct you. So, as a researcher, we have to collect proper information from available literature. It was previously done by other researchers. So, from that, we are collecting as a background information. So we are collecting information from research papers, book, magazines, in government organizations, reports, in many publications like journals. So these are the things called secondary data. Why we have to collect? What is the purpose behind it? It gives you clear idea about various aspects of a particular topic, and we can understand the nature of the topic from already done on the same topic, and also it purposefully helps a researcher to understand what has been explored in already and what we have to focus, and it gives you clear theoretical idea, and we have to analyze the already available facts and information. So at present we can use website or encyclopedias. It introduces you to the topic, helps you to focus on its key elements, and it helps you decide to broaden or narrow your focus. Third step is formulating a hypothesis. Formulating a hypothesis. How will you formulate the hypothesis? Hypothesis is an assumption, that is tentative statement. We do not know whether it is acceptable or not. So we are assuming something, we are formulating as a research problem, and based on that we are setting hypothesis. So the research works is topic focused and refined. So hypothesis is a testable assumption. Based on the hypothesis only, we are going to have statistical test, and based on the result only, we are going to predict. We are going to have our findings. So this assumption. Assumption should be a tested. Effective research work formulate a hypothesis in such a way that collected factual data will provide evidence that either supports or disproves. So while testing the hypothesis, we are setting significant levels 0.05 to 0.01. We can choose. So, if you select a 0.505, its confidence level is 95%. If you select a significant level as 0.01, 99% of confidence level. So based on that only we are going to testing, and it provides evidence, and based on that only we are going to either support or disprove. Either we are going to accept or reject the hypothesis. So we have to set hypothesis, research hypothesis and null hypothesis. Research hypothesis always focused towards a positive. There is a relationship between the higher the level in a society, the higher will be the poverty. At the same time, null hypothesis, there is no relationship between the higher the literacy and a society, the higher will be the poverty. So, hypothesis helps the researcher in forming the research in correct path. It specifies the focus about the research. So, it clearly helps you what kind of information you should collect. You should not avoid irrelevant information collection. So, it makes it easier for the researcher to carry out our research. And the fourth step is research design. We are going to give design for our research. The research design is simply a plan for research. It gives outline and it tells about procedure that we going to use in our research. It clearly tells the researcher how to conduct the research. In research design, we are designing about which methodology will be used. For example, it may be a qualitative or quantitative method. Which tools of data collection will be used? Questionnaire, interview schedule, even in questionnaire open-ended or close-ended, even in interview direct or indirect, or observation, participatory or non-participatory observation. And then who will be the respondent and how many respondent? So it clearly have to explain us what is our sample size, who is our universe, and what are the techniques we are going to adapt to choose the respondents. Next, how will be the collected data analysis? So whether we are going to use any software like Excel, SPSS, or we are going to do manually, we have to choose it. And which test will be used to verify hypothesis or other facts. Whether we are going to use chi-square, correlation, covariance, ANOVA, multiple ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, t-test. So what are the tests we are going to follow or adapt to verify the hypothesis? Research design totally depends on research topic. So researcher should consider all those things and how to design his research, because research design is important because it guides the researcher throughout the process of research. In it, we have to consider ethical part also. Fifth step is carry out the research process. So in research design, we decide what are the things we are going to do. So while research design is decided, then researcher collect data, record information. So here how we are going to collect a data, that is a data collection process. After making a good research design, as a researcher, we have to collect data, information. Okay, so we are collecting primary data based on our tool. So already we decide which tool we are going to use for collecting the data. So based on that, we are collecting a data, and the data is collected according to the techniques which we designed in research design. So it is considered as primary data, and it has two type of data. One is primary and second one is secondary data. What is primary? A data collected by researcher itself, that is primary data. Secondary data means data collected by someone, that is already available information, called secondary data. So in review of literature, we will collect the secondary data for get a in-depth knowledge. Next step is preparing research. Next one is and after collecting the data should be analyzed and interpreted. So after information collected, we have to edit it, whether we have collected unnecessary data or missing information. So we have to edit it, and we have to coding it, and we have to feed in our computer, and we have to choose what are the techniques we are going to adapt to analyze, that is statistical test. We are setting hypothesis, right? The hypothesis are to be tested. Ultimate purpose of analysis is to find out the answer for our question, research question that we already formed. That is the first step in research process. So researcher should be carefully analyzed based on the statistical test. So the purpose is to achieve the objectives of the research. The findings are explained as new facts in detail, and also we have to explain the relationship between already available facts. Preparing research result. After analysis and interpretation, we have to generate the findings of our study. It is confirmed fact. So this has to be present in a particular format. So we have to choose carefully. So after completing the research analysis and interpretation part, we have to start our research report preparation. So seventh step is reporting research findings. It is a final step. After completing the research analysis and interpretation, researcher has to write a research report. Generally, we can say as thesis or dissertation. Research report itself is an art. It has its own steps. We have to follow the steps. The purpose of writing a thesis report is give you clear picture, that is framework and proper shape to the research findings. And as a researcher, we are going to present our findings in different format, like a chart. We can use bar chart, pie chart, a table, and so on. So it has to be presentable so that audience can understand easily. So following procedure we are going to adapt for writing the research report. That is, one is preliminary pages and main pages, second one is, and third one is closing pages. In preliminary pages, We have to give title page, abstract and table of content has to be placed. And main body of research report, chapter 1, chapter wise we have to categorize. And chapter 1 introduction, chapter 2 literature review, chapter 3 research design, chapter 4 data analysis and interpretation, chapter 5 findings and suggestions, and closing pages includes bibliography and references. So it is the significant part in research study. So we have to be very carefully present our research report. So these are the steps we have to follow in research. Researcher, we are going to conduct research for getting in-depth knowledge about already available knowledge, or we are going to have, or we are going to verify whether old facts is correct or not, or applicable or not. Fieldwork research gives casual explanation about social phenomena. So the researcher should follow the process while conducting the research, because it has its own steps, that is scientific process. We cannot skip it. We have to follow one by one, that is selection of research problem, review of literature, formulation of research objective. What is it? Objectives are the aim of our research. So the researcher should explore based on the objective. The objective should be a action word. It can be started to know, to explore, to study, to test, like that only. And next is making the research design methodology. In it we have to explain which methodology will be used in research and which tool of data collection will be used and who will be the respondents and how many respondents and how will be the collected data analysis and which test we are going to adapt for verifying the hypothesis. And next one is sample procedure. So how we are going to carry out our research, whether it may be a random sampling, stratified sampling, purposive sampling, probability sampling, or non-probability sampling. So which method we are going to use, which procedure we are going to use, and sample size is always discussed. Next step is we have to collect data, that is information based on our topic. So we have to collect proper information based on techniques, whether we have to select a questionnaire, interview schedule, or observation, or case study, or group discussion. So based on the techniques, we have to collect proper information. The information should be properly recorded, that is primary and secondary data. The primary data is collected by researcher itself for the study. Secondary data means it is already collected by someone. Then data analysis and interpretation parts plays a vital role in research. After collecting the data should be edited and we should code it, and we have to enter into our computer, and we have to test by using statistical uh, method, whether we are going to adapt chi-square or correlation between two variables. Like that we have to choose and we have to test it to find out whether we can accept or not. Then based on the analysis and interpretation, we have to derive findings and conclusions. So it is the main part. And last and most important work, which is report writing. Okay, in report writing, preliminary pages, main body and closing body. In preliminary pages clearly tells about title page, abstract, table of content. In main pages, chapter wise we have to categorize. Chapter 1 should explain introduction, chapter 2 literature review, chapter 3 research design, Chapter 4 Data Analysis and Interpretation. Chapter 5 Findings and Suggestions. The third part is closing pages. In it, bibliography. We have referred many other journals, books, and government reports. Those things should be clearly explained and references. Okay, thank you.